So did everybody get a chance to approve or look over the minutes so we can approve them?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our September 8th meeting. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move on to regular business. So Francis, have a WLS
Okay,
report?
yeah, thank you. Right. We had our last meeting on the 27th of September, about 2 weeks ago, and it was a packed agenda, so we managed to go through it. I had the honor to chair the meeting, which is quite an experience. There are 4 issues I want to raise in briefing the board. One is that the WLS board is currently doing an annual review of all the policies that we have in place, about 12 or so policies, to ensure that these policies reflect the changes that have been made recently in the law, New York State law, as well as New York State labor laws. And these policies range from, for example, the policy of sexual harassment has been reviewed and updated to ensure that there's absolutely zero tolerance in this regard, that there's no sexual harassment of any kind in the workplace. Another one is the elimination of all violence and intolerance of any violence in the workplace of any kind against anybody. Another policy that we reviewed is the WLS collection development policy. And this policy strives to provide collections and resources that meet the cultural, informational, educational, recreational needs of all individuals in our Westchester County. And we are doing this in collaboration with the other libraries. Another policy that we reviewed is the investment of funds. We do have some idle funds that invested in the order of about $1 million. And the idea here is a commitment to investing funds in a way that maximizes the security of these funds once they're invested, and satisfy cash flow requirements and the use of approved investments in order to provide the highest possible returns. So that is also being reviewed. The law requires that the investment shall conform with all the applicable laws and regulations that are applicable to libraries in the system. So this is a requirement by the state of New York. Another policy that we reviewed is the purchasing policy, the procurement of items, in order to ensure that a responsible procurement process is based on receiving the highest quality goods and services while assuring prudent and economic use of all our funds. Another area that we reviewed is the participation of board members and the public. The policy, the participation policy for the effective operation of WLS on behalf of our patrons and their libraries. This policy sets forth procedures for the participation by trustees and members of the public to ensure that they serve the needs of WLS and are in compliance with the open meetings regulations of the New York State. And a number of others, these are just examples. Our committee on governance has been working quite hard on that. It's a tedious job, it's quite painstaking, but it has to be done. And this review has to be done at least once a year. So that is point number 1. 2 is that you probably know this already, that the board approved $34 million for public library construction aid for 22-23. And WLS was allocated $1.6 million based on its population, which currently I think is just about $1 million. We received a total of 15 applications for this grant cycle, which includes our own libraries. And all these applications met the required criteria, so they were all approved. And so our library, therefore, has been awarded about $200,000 for the main library here, as well as the Huguenot. Uh, that's the easy part. The little more difficult part is getting the money into your into your account. I tried to raise that point in the meeting. I said, okay, we're happy with this, but let's sort of speed up the release of funds and not have to wait for eternity before, because people in New Rochelle want to get on, and if you want to go to see what the funds have done, come on and see. So I was just trying to see if we can expedite the release of funds, but I don't know. Anyway, the third point is that I would recommend, and I think the director is going to be circulating the latest report, executive director's report to the libraries. It contains a lot of useful information, and I really recommend that you look at it. There's lots of useful information in the September executive director's report, which I think is worth the attention of our board, this board. It covers a number of issues that I just want to highlight. For example, the cataloging services of the library, which promotes WNRS strategic goals of promoting equity and access by making the member libraries collection visible and accessible to all the Westchester community through the online cataloging services. So I understand that's an important service and is described in some detail. So it is probably worth looking at it. There's a good description of the digital equity activities of the library, and that is something that is quite relevant to what we do here and very much needed. So look at that as well. There is a description of the ongoing work of the IT, the Information Technology Department, which is currently trying to update system-wide VDI hardware. I think installing the Windows 10 or something, in all this. And that process is going on. I hope our library is benefiting from that. But that is described in some detail as well. And a word or two about the outreach activities in support of access to library services through programming, marketing, etc. While something I wanted to mention about cataloging, there was with regards to cataloging, I understand a certain Mr. Ray who has been recruited by WLS to undertake this task. Has been going around the libraries cataloging things, and I think they were here to catalog the.
And we've been sending things in the original catalog.
Yeah.
It means that there's no bibliographic record anymore
Right.
to WLS over the years, because
Right.
we have some unique collections like musical scores, etc.
Yeah.
And they have been accommodating us, even though in more recent years their cataloging staff has had a lot on their plate. So
Yeah.
they've supported us so that we can get our collections,
That-
out to the
Yeah,
public.
this gentleman, I understand, is an expert in this area. He was working in it before he retired, and he has been brought back as a consultant to work on it. And they cataloged the ukulele instrument, which I understand Sarah plays very well.
This is Doug Ray, I think.
Yeah, Ray, yes. And that, they also are cataloging the library Louise Ideken score collection. It's a painting or something. There's a resident of New Rochelle who's a singer, actress, and publisher, and her works being cataloged,
Oh,
including the
collection that was
Phantom.
donated-
Yeah,
That was donated to us. She's a New Show resident,
yeah.
and she was a performer on Broadway. And she
Yeah,
recently-
Phantom of Opera and all that.
Right,
Yeah,
all
which
sorts of
my children love a lot. Yeah,
shows.
right.
And she retired, and she saw something in one of our e-blasts about our scores collection, and she was thinking about where can I place this collection I've gathered over my career, my lifetime. And we have a librarian that we hired within the past year, Brian, who
Yeah.
has an extraordinary musical background with the Berkeley School of Music and Art School of Music. He's working on her collection. We had a conversation with her. She made a significant donation. We added it to our library. So residents that other people in the county can access it.
Yeah, so it's a useful service. So this guy is going around doing that service. But you will find a good description of that also in the executive director's report. Lastly, just to inform you that we are currently busy preparing our budget for 22-23, and that is taking quite a bit of time. This is the budget and the finance committee is working on that. We've had 3 meetings, one last night, and there's one more meeting coming up before we can submit our proposals to the full board on the 25th of October. And I sit on all these committees, so it's quite interesting to know the length and breadth of activities of the WLS. And I've been with WLS for 4 years now, and it's amazing to see how much this organization is doing, and all the libraries, and they're not really known as they should be known. Whether this is the veterans' fault or what, but I feel that there's still need for informing the public about the variety of activities and opportunities that our libraries provide. Many of them free of charge, and they're financed by this grant and that grant and so forth. The libraries actually do a lot, and I just wish that the public would know about that and take advantage of it. And we can only do what we can do. Anyway, so the budget is in process. There are 2 things that concern me in the budget. One is that it should take into account the current economic situation. We should not overpay anybody or anything, but things should be comparable. And our budget should be more or less in line with the other libraries, etc., so that it doesn't stand out in an embarrassing way. And secondly, and perhaps more importantly, there should be a clear link between the strategic goals that we prepared and the support that the budget provides. That link should be there. And as the executive director, in presenting the budget proposals to the board, to highlight those things, because I like to see that connection. The budget in itself is just a service, it's a tool. The goal has to be achieved with the help of the budget, not the other way around. So that's all I have to say. That's it.
Great, thank you, Francis. So we'll move on. There's no president's report, as Whitney is not here, and she did not relay anything to me. So we'll move on to the director's report.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you, Francis, for a terrific report. And, your role as an officer on the WLS board is great. You can really keep us informed, and I appreciate that. Just bring you folks up to date. We are now in October, and since the beginning of the fall season, we have seen increased activity in all levels here at the library, and it's exciting as we hopefully ease out of the pandemic mode into a more active mode. And Elizabeth will be making a presentation a little bit later tonight, in which she will talk a little bit more about activities, etc. But one thing I do want to highlight and share some photos with you is that we had this amazing family fair on October 2nd. I don't know if any board members came with their kids. I heard Rhiannon was there. Yeah. And it was a tremendous success. We had nearly 500 people. Let me share photographs that were just sort of taken just to illustrate the level of engagement by our families in New Rochelle. And really, I have to thank 2 major parties. One is our staff, who really worked so hard, Lisa and Toby and Bobby and Rio, in particular were the leaders, that really brought it all together and spent a lot of time really working on it with great success. And the foundation, once again, the foundation, outside of the grant that they gave us this year, provided us with about $8,000 to, make it all happen. And so it was just a big success, and it's great that we are able to accomplish these sort of events. It's over and above what we were given financially, and I know that the community appreciates it. I've heard a lot of positive feedback from different sources, so kudos to everybody involved in that successful effort. Francis talked about New York State construction grants and delays, and indeed, we are living with a very attenuated delay relative to two grants that we would have expected to have received by now, and that is the grants from the previous year, 2021, that relates to the third floor renovation, as well as at HCL, the replacement of the three air conditioning units with new units. Typically what happens is in June of each year, there's an announcement made by the state library, also by our legislators. No announcement yet. So not only have we not received the check, we have not been formally given approval for these two grants. So we're hoping that it will move forward. We've been told that the pandemic really delayed things in terms of certifying the grants, et cetera. And so we do understand that. We're all living with that, but it is frustrating. Our staff is really ready to go to start, and in particular, start the third floor renovation, which will make the space really quite amazing, very up to date, with new areas for people to study, a new desk that's a little more streamlined, more technology. So anyway, so that's unfortunate.
Is there something that we can do in the board to speed this up or bring pressure to bear?
I've reached out to WLS. I mean, I don't know. I suppose we could, reach out to our legislators, our delegation. I'm told from Terry Kirshner, the executive director of WLS, no news is good news, that they're not aware of any overweening issue that is delaying this. It's just, the inertia tied to the pandemic. But it's frustrating because we're all really ready to start that next project to continue to remake our library.
Yeah.
So, and as Francis mentioned, thanks to his support and other people on the WLS board, the grants that we applied for most recently relative to the main library project, the noise abatement issue, as well as HCL, a series of renovations that will take care of storage, take care of our lower level area in terms of flooring, kitchen, some patio improvements too, was approved. Our total grant request was not allowed, not because of anything lacking in the grant, but as Francis said, there were 15 libraries that applied, and the amount of money that totaled their grant requests far outstripped the 1.6 million that the county received. But still, 175,000 for the main library project and 24,000 at HCL will allow us, at least at HCL, to do everything that we need to do with the foundation providing the match. At the main library, what we've had to do is to put on hold a few smaller areas that relate to noise abatement, but focus on the two major areas that really see a lot of noise reverberation, and that is the lobby atrium space, which can, when we have a crowd on any floor, it sort of reflects throughout the building, and also a teen area, which of course, by the very nature of teens, they're making some noise, and we're going to be dealing with that without necessarily having to get them to be too quiet. So that's something exciting to see. And of course, it's all tentative. It's got to wind its way through the state of New York at the state library, the dormitory authority. So that's all on hold. Let's see what else. Our ARPA grant that we applied for, along with the foundation for sort of a bookmobile vehicle, is still on hold. They also received far more grants asking for more money than money that they had allocated. So we'll just wait and see what happens there. One sort of exciting thing that we were successful with in terms of a grant is that we received word just recently that we were one of 50 libraries that were awarded a grant through the American Library Association and the Yiddish Center for the Book. And so we will be working on having a book discussion series for titles, 3 books that are in English but were originally written in Yiddish, and a 4th book too that reflects one of our major populations. And the theme is exiles, people who are in states of transition and struggling and trying to sort of find themselves. And so we're really excited about that. 3 books are Yiddish. The 4th book is a book that we all thought was really important, and that is The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, that relates to the African American experience. And so what will happen is a volunteer will be trained, all expenses paid, at the Yiddish Center for the Book in Massachusetts, and then she will go forward. We'll have all the books purchased by the group, and we'll have these book discussions. What's really interesting is that when we saw this grant application, Lisa Itzkowitz and I collaborated on it. We thought there was only one person who made sense to lead it, and that was Hannah Jess Michael, our former board president, who's still very involved with the library, even though she has moved out of the city. And she agreed. And so we're looking forward to sharing more about this program as we go forward. The expenses paid training, which will happen in Amherst, Massachusetts, will happen in January of next year, and then we'll sort of figure out what we're going to do, and we'll share it. So that's sort of an exciting series to see. Let's see what else. One thing that I would like to ask for your, I'm sorry, let me finish. Another state grant, and that is the fire stopping grant that we had talked about previously. And we are very actively moving forward in regards to the project. And I asked the architect to provide a summary, and I'll just read it. He says, the investigative and construction document phases are completed for the firewall restoration project, and the project is about to go out for competitive bidding. A pre-bid conference is scheduled for Tuesday of the upcoming week, and bids will be due by Thursday, November 3rd. After receiving the bids, an analysis will be undertaken, and the low bidder or bidders will be descoped to ensure that they have the correct and complete scope of work. The descoping process should take an additional 2 to 3 weeks. A contract should be expected to be entered into by late November, early December. We have every expectation that the contractor will provide a schedule, ideally with mobilization starting in December, followed by a 3 to 4 month period of construction. So we're moving forward in that area too, which is a relief, to be honest with you. Let's see what else. As you folks know, last year the board allocated a sum of money, $200,000, to be set aside for library capital projects. And to date, we've used it in a variety of areas. One was for a children's bathroom, and the other was for something that was really essential, which was replacing the fire panels or upgrading the fire panels. And so that is all done. But there was one far smaller job that the electrician had to do, and I need to ask your approval in order to pay him. And the work is related to circuit relocations and button. And what they essentially did was to relocate existing circuits from the ASCO panel to the power panel. 6 circuits were relocated to the power panel. Circuits are for the air conditioning in the computers. ASCO switch is designed to turn off our partial panel with one switch that controls the lighting. We also had to install new breakers in all spare locations for future use. We also installed a new key switch on the first floor because the old switch wasn't really working. The total cost for this was $4,169.86. So I would ask the board to make a motion to approve that payment to the electrician for the work that was previously done in relation to the overall project of making certain that our electrical panels are modern and safe and up to date.
Sounds like necessary. Does anybody have questions? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. What exactly?
To,
A payment of $4,169.86 to PRM Electric. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
thank you all. Let's see. At last meeting, you will recall we spent a fair amount of time discussing the request made by the New Rochelle School District and Library Treasurer Laura Del Principio, asking that the library board pass a resolution appointing her as treasurer and also appoint someone that was recently hired and appointed to the job, Gloria Iannucci, as deputy treasurer, as well as reauthorizing their ability to function as signatories for our bank accounts and providing Gloria with that same banking authorization. You folks asked me, it was confusing. We had never encountered anything like this before, certainly in my years here. And it was the consensus of the board not to go forward with that, but to do research regarding these requests. And I did. I followed up with a series of conversations with our attorney and David, our attorney, indicated that after doing some research, he said he is not familiar with any law or regulation that requires our board to formally appoint someone who's already filling the job as our treasurer, and of course someone as the deputy treasurer. And there was no precedent, there was no law. I also spoke to the acting head of the school district and told him that this is what had happened and just wanted to get some context. And his job is acting in lieu of, I guess, an appointment by the Board of Ed. And he had quite a lot of experience working in school districts and school district libraries when his career in Long Island. And he said he wasn't familiar with that also. And he also wasn't familiar with any request by the Board of Education themselves to ask the library to appoint Ms. Del Principio and Ms. Iannucci to these positions. And finally, I reached out to Ms. Del Principio, and we've been playing telephone tag. I was away for a little while. I did come back. I did call her. I haven't heard from her. When I spoke to Whitney about this issue, she certainly was not, and of course she's not here tonight. We talk about it at the November meeting, but she wasn't recommending that we take any action relative to these resolutions.
It sounds like if there's no precedent, then
And I'm still waiting.
it doesn't cause an issue though as far as timing.
No, but one element that Whitney did discuss, and this can be something that can be decided either tonight or at the November meeting, which is passing a resolution that would give the treasurer and the assistant treasurer the capacity to be a signatory, which Whitney and our attorney felt were two entirely different issues, and that both David, our attorney, as well as Whitney seemed to be acceptable. And we had done something similar in 2019, the board, in which we gave the treasurer, Laura Del Principio, the ability through a municipal resolution to have that right, as well as the deputy treasurer. And there is a history of the library board agreeing that the treasurer and the deputy treasurer should be able to function as signatories to our bank accounts. And this is the resolution that was passed in 2003 when the library went from sort of its previous model to the school district library mode. So I don't know if you folks want to consider taking action tonight or defer till Whitney returns, but
So you said it was already passed in 2019?
It was for Laura Del Principio, But since that time, the deputy treasurer at the time has retired, and we have Ms. Iannucci, who is the new deputy treasurer, who does not have signatory powers.
And that was a concern, because we thought maybe it would hold up.
If Ms. Del Principio was absent, there isn't, the deputy treasurer doesn't have the legal right to sign, which could be a problem, I mean, honestly.
Well, I think it makes sense to wait for Whitney, but it does seem like a non-issue to just pass this for the new deputy.
I think because there is precedent for
Yeah.
that,
That's fine.
whereas the resolution to appoint both of those people is obviously
That's different.
very problematical.
That's okay.
I mean, I'm all for passing this because there's precedent. I don't know if you want to wait for Whitney.
It's another
What do we
month.
think?
That's
Another
a
month.
month
We
then.
haven't had
There's
any
nothing
issues
pressing for it.
yet.
Is there anything pressing that we have to do it today?
Corey, no, not now. I'm just, it's just having that person as the backup is good if something were to happen to the treasurer. But
Right.
at this point, there is no emergency.
I think last meeting, there was a sense of urgency.
Right, and nothing has happened in
Right.
the month, so I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a downside? I mean, for this particular resolution, is there a downside?
Just that maybe there wouldn't be somebody available to sign.
Right.
Well, right, if we
And
don't,
then, right,
yeah.
so that's a possibility, and then we'd have to have maybe
A
a special
special
meeting
meeting,
to
yeah.
do this instead.
If it were to happen between now and the November meeting.
But can I just say something? It's nothing out of the ordinary. This isn't like a new
Right.
rule. This is just us
Doing what we've done
doing it,
previously.
even though there's been a couple-year pause, there's a new, am I saying it right? There's a new deputy or whatever. it
You're
is.
absolutely right. There
So
isn't
I
a
don't
deputy
understand why we
treasurer.
can't just move forward and.
So
I agree.
I'll make a motion, so is it two motions? Are these two separate
I
things?
think it
or-
could be just one motion,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, no, go ahead.
Allowing, appointing Laura Del Principio as treasurer and Gloria Iannucci as deputy treasurer to, let's look at what the language was before, to act as signatories on the new Rochelle Public Library's bank accounts.
Okay, so I'll make that motion to appoint those two individuals. Can I get a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So abstain.
Okay. So it still passes?
It
yes.
does
Okay.
pass.
Agreed.
Thank you all. That's just reassuring for us just to have that done. The other outstanding issue is certainly needs a lot of future consideration. Let's see what else. Sorry. I'm almost done. Okay, again, we have an opportunity to work with Senator Shelley Mayer's office regarding a possibility of a capital grant, and Whitney is working towards finding time to engage in a conversation with her office, and so that's pending, but we're excited about the offer that was made by Senator Mayer, and so don't ever want to leave any money on the table if it's directed towards us and it's, it's coming from another place. The Trustee Institute that WLS has held successfully for a number of years is continuing with October 27th. There's a webinar, and it really relates to effective meetings vis-a-vis correct parliamentary procedure. I sent that out to you folks, so if you want to register, you're more than welcome to do so. Another terrific tradition, which is our Thanksgiving parade, which will be held on November 19th. The library is once again planning to march, and it will be a combination of library staff, hopefully library board members, foundation and friends board members too. So if you folks are interested, I know one board member has indicated some interest it's a lot of fun. It goes on for a little while, and people cheer and say they love the library. So it's an
Good job.
easy moment, you know. So if that's possible, that's that. The Friends, of course, continue to work extraordinarily hard on a very limited group of volunteers. And, you know, they're accepting donations, very small sets of donations because of limited volunteer numbers. And their store is open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And one last thing, the foundation board meeting is next scheduled for November 21st. And the first meeting of the year was September 19th, and it happened in person, you know, in the room behind us, first time since the onset of the pandemic. So it was fun to see everybody again in one room. And the other element is that the foundation is working on a series of event ideas, and I don't think they've fully crystallized, but I'll just sort of do it really briefly. They're thinking about Thursday evening on November 17th, a foundation donor recognition event, you know, having the opportunity to meet donors in the library and provide tours, et cetera. On January 19th, they're thinking about the possibility of having some sort of event that would provide a meeting and greeting for downtown residents in regards to meeting local organizations, which would include the library, the foundation, the Arts Council, the Fund for Educational Excellence. The next event they're talking about is a fundraising event, and it was suggested by Elizabeth, which sounded really cool. And that's the foundation is thinking about having a mini golf event where they'd set up holes all around the library and also do it with a game night element too as well. And so, you know, that's not definitively in place, but it sounds like it might be, and it could be a lot of fun and make some money for the foundation and the library. And they're thinking of a continuation on the 11th where there'd be kids games in the library, sort of tying to the fundraiser the earlier night that we talked about, and might be board games stationed around the library for kids. And that's that. And I am done. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. So no personnel report?
I
Or you
actually
do?
do have
Okay.
one, and then it'll be Elizabeth's turn. I'm going to ask for resolutions regarding three new part-time employees that we've hired. We've hired a page for the Huguenot Children's Library. Her name is Mia Rossi. Her salary is $15 an hour, and her start date was October 4th of this year. We have two new library assistants that are working in our adult services area. We're very excited about both of these individuals. One is Maureen Ilya. Her salary is $25.43 per hour. Her start date was just recently, the 11th of October. The other library assistant part-time in our adult services area is Dinesh Shah. We're also excited about this gentleman coming here. His salary is $25.43 an hour. His start date will be the 22nd of October. And so I'm asking for a board motion to accept these new hires.
I'll make a motion to accept the new hires. Can I get a
I'll second.
second? All approved?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Second half. And this is to ask the board for their approval to accept the resignation of 3 employees. And one I just want to talk a little bit about once we get past the resolution. The first one is social media video coordinator and graphic specialist, Nicolette Fudge, whose annual salary is $60,466.08. And her last day will be, sadly, October 14th. And then the other 2 resignations I'll ask the board to approve. One is Michaela Rogers. Her salary is $15 per hour. Her last day was August 26th. And the third and final, Emma Farley, $15 per hour. Her last day was the 26th of August. And both of those young ladies were staff on our sort of our patio program, which was tremendously successful. And so I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve those departures. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I do have to say, I don't mean to embarrass you again, Nikki, who's up there, but Nikki's last meeting with us is tonight, and tomorrow is her last day. And she has found a wonderful new opportunity to grow her career. And while we're very excited for where her career is going, and we were not surprised because she was truly a model employee in every way, we're happy that this is something that she's discovered, and we know she'll have a lot of success. And I thank you, Nikki, again and again for all your work. You're, so efficient and quiet, and just, really, you did a great job for us, as you will for your next employer.
Do you want us
Thank
to
you,
change
Nikki.
the vote?
Sorry, you can't leave. We're taking it
Sorry,
back.
not allowed to go.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Shake the vote, yeah.
Good idea, Beth.
Okay, and we'll move on to committee reports.
No, I think,
No?
maybe I forgot to put that in,
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth as
Oh,
Assistant Director.
That's right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
I get to talk about some exciting things that's happening here at the library, and I'm going to start out with the children's area. We have begun our school visits this past September. We're in October now. So the first one was the Isaac School. We are estimated to have about 20 classes, which is about 400 children that will be coming through our doors and visiting the children's room. And the goal is to have every kindergartner have a library card. So that's been really exciting. Our school visits are not just including a tour of the space, but it also has a scavenger hunt component to it, and kids are really enjoying it. We launched our grades 4 to 6 club. It's a program that includes games, arts and crafts, and books geared towards emerging teens. This past month, we have answered over 5,000 reference inquiries at our public service desk, so that's pretty exciting. So between the Huguenot Children's Library and the main library, it's great to see that we have responded to so many different questions about books and our services. In the same vein, for the adults, we have also answered over 5,500 questions at our reference desk that come not just in person, but also through the phone. We have also seen an increase of our popular service, which is the test proctoring. We have proctored over 12 exams this month, which is really, there's a organization, Real Estate University, which sends all of their potential real estate agents to the library to finish taking their licensing tests. Our digital collection continues to grow, and our collection on the New York Heritage website is the 7th most visited site. So it's a New Rochelle history that really has been getting a lot of attention, and it's a pretty robust and exciting collection. So if you haven't had a chance, please take a look. Our museum passes, which is a program supported by the foundation board, is really an important part of our service delivery model. We have actually circulated just in this past month 61 museum passes. The most popular passes include the American Museum of Natural History, the Intrepid, and the Museum of Modern Art. I also want to add that we did a soft launch of our Chromebook and Hotspot lending program, and just in less than a month, we have lent out over 11 Chromebooks and Hotspots. I think the Hotspots are more popular than the Chromebooks because I think the internet bandwidth issues and access to Wi-Fi is still an issue for many people who live here in New Rochelle. And last but not least, I want to talk about Bound Books Week, which took place in the 2nd or 3rd week of September. We are grateful for the foundation to be a part of this initiative because, as we know, our freedom to read and access to information is under threat. So we had a really great display of books in every one of our public service areas, starting from children's to adults and teens. We had some great displays, and we also supported this initiative with a list of bound books in our collection, which was promoted through our newsletter. So lots of exciting and wonderful things happening here at the New Rochelle Public Library.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Banned book is not yet an issue here, is it? In New Rochelle?
Not sort of as vehemently and loud as other places.
Okay, committee reports. Budget committee? Is anybody, who's here from the budget committee? Okay, no report. Buildings and grounds, I have no report. Community relations,
I'm happy to share the report from the marketing and program people here at the library, and also the Help and Learning Center representatives. So September and the first half of October was extremely busy with a lot of amazing programs and events, some of which we already talked about tonight. The Friday night concert series kicked off on September 9th with a great movie and great attendance. And the film series continued with the screening of 2 Western films. The Westchester Sandbox Theater Workshop started the first of 4 children's workshops and had a very nice attendance. The New Rochelle Street Fair was on September 18th, was a great event all around, but especially for the library. The table was very popular and had a lot of visitors, up to 500, I think, and it was right next to the table of the Library Foundation, which was also great, and which had a theme of the banned books. It was really well done with the banned books wrapped and some words outside on why the book was banned. People had to guess what book was inside. It was really great. It attracted a lot of attention, I think. Knitting workshops were held in September to kind of gauge interest, and it turned out there was a lot of interest, so it will be continued with 2 workshops a month from between now and December. So for all your knitting friends and family, let them know. Yoga continues. It happened on the 15th and the September 15th, September 29th, and on December 6th, and it's pretty well attended. Family Fair, Tom already spoke about how successful and wonderful it was. The magic show here the house was packed. So many kids in costumes, it was really fun to see. And I think, it was partially so successful because of a really kind of multifaceted marketing outreach and promotional effort to push the event all across the city. And so I think just a lot of people really had heard about it, knew about it, and therefore showed up. I think it was almost 500 attendees. And it was also successful in collecting new email addresses, so people to reach in the future. So that was a great event. The Adult Art Workshop was the first in a series of new art workshops. And we'll continue on beyond this. And chair yoga also still going on Mondays and Wednesdays. There were successful events for the Hispanic Heritage Month and the Indigenous Peoples Week. The virtual programs continued in September and October in coordination with partner libraries. There were great virtual events such as Mexican muralists and how the heck do you buy a used car? It's interesting. People attended that. It was great. There was a lot of interest for that. Great things coming up. The second performance in the Friday night concert series is tomorrow night. The New Rochelle Plays Hollywood Film Series kicks off on Sunday, the 16th, with a screening of The Naked City. And the series will run one Sunday a month between now and January 2023. And then Arts Fest is the big thing coming up. All over New Rochelle will be great events. It's a huge program between Thursday, December the 20th until Sunday, the 23rd. And a lot of events are being held here at the library. I think that's all on the website. And if you look up Arts Fest in general, you'll see pages and pages of great events. I really encourage you to look it up and participate. There'll be a Halloween-themed film series on the 29th. 2 horror movies will be screened and discussed. I'm sure my kids will want to do that. And a lot of great other virtual programming, films, virtual tours, books, discussions, things like that. So, and then quickly, the Help and Learning Center continues its great work, meets with the patrons and helps them with all the online kind of needs and provides a lot of resources, such as, Medicare enrollment and assisting them with food support, rent, education, those kind of things. So thank you to the Help and Learning Center for that. And that concludes my report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody praised the yoga program here very much at the board, at my board.
Yeah, it's incredibly popular. I mean, there's a
I was
core
surprised
group
myself.
of users that come, and we'll be having meetings.
Yeah.
And it'll be time for chair yoga, and those chair yoga people they're pushing us out of the room.
It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah. No, I believe you.
Yeah, like the breathing, whatever it is, and so on. I was surprised myself when somebody else from another library said, we like the yoga program in New Rochelle. I said, yeah, it's very good.
Oh, good. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Does the Finance Committee have a report? No?
Nothing to report.
Personnel Committee? The Policy Committee? I don't think we have anything. And the Special Projects Committee? Okay. So no more committee reports. That leads us to public discussion. Does anybody?
Yes, guys.
No. Marjorie? Oh, okay. She's shaking her head though. Okay.
Come on, Marjorie.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. All right. So I guess that concludes our meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.